Blizzard is a very old games company and they have been developing games for a long time. In that period of time, they have found the most success with World of Warcraft. They have changed and cancelled many things that should have been put into the game. From censoring things in-game to expansions that never got released. Here are 5 things Blizzard doesn't want you to know about World of Warcraft. So number 5 is Blizzard actually had a sequel planned for World of Warcraft. When WoW got released, Blizzard had no idea it would be as successful as it is today. At the time, the MMO genre of games was very niche and very few people actually played it, and Blizzard had no idea it would be the mainstream success that it is today. In fact, Blizzard was selling so many copies of World of Warcraft, they actually had to stop selling World of Warcraft in stores because the servers couldn't handle the amount of new players playing the game. So come 2007, when they had over 6 million subscribers in vanilla WoW, Blizzard realized they have created a cash cow. So they immediately began planning to create a new MMORPG. So during the time when Burning Crusade got released, they began production of a new MMO to compete in the market. And in 2010, a leak was released on the internet without consent by Blizzard, and the project was mysteriously called Project Titan. Of course, this made loads of people speculate as to what the heck this was. After this leak got released, Blizzard China's GM got fired or resigned, as he quickly lost his job after this got released. So it's pretty clear that Blizzard didn't want anyone to know about it, but unfortunately someone spilled the beans and people now know of Project Titan. Mike Morhaime gave an interview where he was talking about Project Titan. Mike Morhaime said that the two games were so different that they could coexist in the same market. So it probably wouldn't be a direct sequel to World of Warcraft, it would probably be a very different experience. However, in 2010, for the first time ever, Blizzard began to start seeing a decline in subscriptions for World of Warcraft. Up until that point, they have never had a month where they actually lost total subscriptions. And this began a decline that lasted for many years. And in general, the MMO market from Wrath of the Lich King in 2009 began to take a turn downward. Seeing this turn in direction for the MMO market, Blizzard probably changed their plans for releasing a new MMO. And in 2013, Blizzard reported that Project Titan would be rebooted. And believe it or not, this actually became the game that we know of as Overwatch, which is a multiplayer online shooter, which is very different to an MMO. Although Blizzard wasn't expecting the MMO market to take a downward turn, they did actually create Overwatch from it, and Overwatch is very successful as a game. Number 4 is the Emerald Dream expansion. Now, Blizzard has been toying around with different ideas of what they should be putting in the next expansion. And during vanilla WoW, Blizzard were toying with ideas of many new ways to actually create new content for a new expansion. Blizzard actually put in many things into the vanilla WoW database, and some very interesting things can be found, such as a pre-Burning Crusade Outland. But the most interesting thing that you can find in the vanilla WoW database is many maps detailing the Emerald Dream. In the game files, there were huge maps containing the Emerald Dream, and it was just very extensive that it could definitely not just be a single zone, it had to be its own expansion. And today you can look on the internet and you can find many pictures and videos about the Emerald Dream, and a lot of these art assets we have never actually seen in the game. Closest we can come to seeing the Emerald Dream is at the end of the Emerald Nightmare raid in Legion WoW. But aside from that, there is no way to get yourself into the Emerald Dream. And many people believe that this was the first ever expansion that was planned by Blizzard, as Outland at the time was initially planned to just be a single dungeon, but later got converted into an entire expansion pack. This is my speculation, but I do believe that the Emerald Dream was cancelled to be an expansion pack simply because it is pretty hard to create content around it. The lore of the Emerald Dream basically means there is not much going on there. In addition, all of the maps would have to be green, luscious plant life, so you couldn't have much variation zone by zone, as every single zone you would step into would pretty much be the same thing. Lots of grass, lots of trees, lots of foliage. Whereas the Burning Crusade expansion had many diverse zones that was very pleasing to the eyes. Whereas I'm pretty sure Blizzard figured out that players probably wouldn't want to be seeing green grass in every single zone. Number 3 is the KARAZHAN crypts. Now, the KARAZHAN crypts have been a secret zone that was put into the game a long time ago. And Blizzard has put a lot of effort into not letting you get into this zone, as the zone itself is pretty different from the rest of World of Warcraft. It is pretty scary, to be honest, and there is a lot of gory imagery in this zone. In case you guys don't know what I'm talking about, next to KARAZHAN there was an area called the CRYPT. Now the CRYPT was originally planned to be a raid in vanilla WoW, as the size of this zone suggests that it was a 40-man raid. The place is absolutely massive and is pretty much similar to Naxxramas, Molten Core, and so on. The crazy thing with KARAZHAN CRYPT is that it is pretty scary to step into. There is just bones and skeletons lying all over the place. It is very dark and dingy. There are bodies hanging upside down in the water. It is not an inviting place. Even for Deadwind Pass, this place is pretty creepy. I'm not sure why Blizzard never did anything with this zone. Perhaps they thought that this zone was a little bit too gory for World of Warcraft. Number 2 is WoW is censored in China. In case you guys don't know, World of Warcraft is different region by region. The most stark contrast with World of Warcraft regional differences has to be in China. Chinese World of Warcraft is so much different compared to what we have in the West. The gameplay is pretty much the same, however, there are many graphic assets that have been changed and altered to meet the censorship requirements for China. There are numerous differences, but one of the biggest differences is that there are no skeletons in the Chinese WoW, which is kind of crazy considering that WoW has a lot of skeletons. In fact, there are many zones that are dedicated to skeletons and undead creatures. Heck, Wrath of the Lich King was basically the skeleton expansion pack. So the Chinese version of WoW, they actually have these models edited so that you can't see any skeletons, and they basically get replaced by an undead model with no bones showing. In addition, skeletons on the floor also get replaced with straw men, which is kind of hilarious. Things that are overly gory get replaced by loaves of bread on the floor. You can step into a scary dungeon like Scholarmance, and instead of seeing meat on the floor, you will see bread loaves on the floor. Blizzard had to change these details in order to meet the requirements by the Chinese government to release World of Warcraft, and it's pretty hilarious to see these differences. Number 1 is that subscription records are now hidden. So throughout World of Warcraft's lifecycle, Blizzard has been announcing and releasing information about how many total subscriptions they have to the game. We can see a timeline of how many subscriptions WoW had month by month pretty much. World of Warcraft was taking an upward turn, and it started with vanilla WoW getting about 6 million subscribers and then getting higher in the Burning Crusade, and then peaking in Wrath of the Lich King, where they was getting about 12 million subscribers give or take at its height of popularity. After Cataclysm got released, Cataclysm actually started to see the first ever decline for WoW subscriptions, and during the expansion it would continue to go down and down and down, and even going into the next expansion, Blizzard started to see even more of a decline with new expansions. So Blizzard decided not to publish any more subscription records anymore. Initially they were quite boastful when it came to the subscription numbers of WoW, and they were more than happy to share the subscriptions going up and up with the general public. However, now that the MMO market and WoW was taking a decline, they decided not to publish these statistics anymore. Despite the fact that WoW in terms of subscriptions isn't doing as well as it was during its heyday, WoW is still a really profitable game. I do believe that Blizzard has realized that they are not taking the game as they wanted it to go. And the most recent expansion called Battle for Azeroth has seen many changes that harken back to the days of old. Ideas and themes that were present in the early days of World of Warcraft are now making a comeback in Battle for Azeroth. In addition, the huge news came about a year ago when Blizzard announced that they would be releasing classic World of Warcraft. I think Blizzard as a company realized that they have been going in the wrong direction, and now they want to turn the ship back. And hopefully come the release of classic World of Warcraft and the Burning Crusade expansion pack, Blizzard will start to see more and more players getting into World of Warcraft and in the MMO genre in general. I do actually believe that we will see a lot of new subscriptions coming in to play classic World of Warcraft. As we have the modern version of World of Warcraft alongside the classic WoW version, I do actually believe that we could actually surpass the number of subscriptions that were present during the Wrath of the Lich King. There is a good chance that old players will return to the game. However, only time will tell as to whether or not WoW will be successful in the future, and they want to get back to the place they were in Wrath of the Lich King, where they were at the height of its popularity and influence in the mainstream. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel, as I will be making a lot of World of Warcraft content. This is vaulty signing out.